We're live. Yay, we're live. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today.
Happy
We're a day
Thursday.
late. AV and I have been hanging out with some of our state representatives in Nashville. So we just got back yesterday. But I'm really excited for today's topic. I have one of our very experienced project managers with us today, Mr. Andrew Hayes. Hi, Andrew.
Hey, good morning. How you
Yeah,
doing?
he's a new face on our live stream, but I want to just kind of dive into the topic of project management. What
Yeah.
is it? How do we go about doing it? What are some pros and cons? How should we go about it? So, real quick, if you're joining us, tell us where you're joining from. And Andrew, I'll let you have the floor for a minute because people don't know you. So go ahead and introduce yourself if you
All
would.
right. Hi, everybody. Happy to be on the roundtable discussion this morning with the team. My name is Andrew Hayes. I am one of our senior managers here with Avero Advisors. I've been, serving the public sector proudly for, going on the last 20 years. I've been a project manager overseeing, comprehensive IT assessments. And, that over time has led me to, serving as a PM, both a project manager and a program manager of complex end-to-end enterprise resource planning software replacement projects. So I am a certified project management professional, certified by PMI, the Project Management Institute. And, it with that certification, it doesn't necessarily matter if you're looking at, um, you know, implementing technology in city government, county government, public utilities, healthcare, what have you. The life cycle is going to be pretty much the same. And, the way that our Avero Advisors team, manage these implementations is accordance to PMI standards. So, project management, I mean, at the fundamental level, it's an engagement with a unique it's a unique engagement with you know a start and a formal end date. And we use all the tools, Microsoft Project, and we develop these comprehensive project management plans so that we can govern the way that we're running these projects. And we keep sponsorship informed along the way of what the milestones are, what the risks are. We keep an eye on the scope. I like to, I always look at project management, it's an iterative process. People talk about how a project plan is a living, breathing document. My project plans are, and I actually had a big sponsorship review on, a large implementation that I'm running right now yesterday, and we talked about this. And I think the important thing, and Robert, you can comment a little bit on this, is we have to keep an eye on the risks. There's so many dependencies on these large scale projects. And, it shows the importance of communication
Yep.
and making sure that there's dialogue between the stakeholders, because if some folks are working off a different version of the plan and they have a different agenda, it can cause some of those dependencies to slide. And next thing you know, your project's a day behind, a week behind, a month behind, or in some instances it's a year behind. So
Yeah.
Robert, you got anything about that?
Yeah, and the one thing that your project manager really, really has to do well that younger project managers sometimes struggle with is there's a lot of organizations that already have internal project management. And the example I'll give is someone asked me once, like, so what exactly do you guys do? How does that differ from the project managers that I have
Right.
internally in mine? Chances are really strong that those type of project managers that you would not put in front of your C-suite to make a presentation or discuss a vision or discuss an outcome of a project. That's where we excel, is the ability to handle the details, to handle change to a great degree. If not completely, if the client would like us to, we can certainly handle that as well. But also being able to set that high level executive vision. And that's why in local government, we concentrate on being able to tie this into what is the community looking to do? What is the mayor looking to do? What's the council
Mhm.
looking to do? because without that tie-in, projects don't become sustainable long-term. And so that's always important to do. Make sure you got that high-level vision.
Absolutely. And I think from that standpoint too, like we're the expert, right? Especially when it comes to ERP and ITSP, we're the expert in that field. We know how these things go. We have that experience. So I think that's essential as well.
You know, when I look at our team, you know, we have a very, very solid team, you know, and that goes from our business analysts, our senior consultants up into our project managers. The important thing is we understand these scopes. We understand the deliverables, the mechanics. We know how to get the job done, but our project managers are experienced, so they can properly scope the project.
Right.
You know, we understand exactly what the level of effort is when it comes to, you know, these comprehensive end-to-end ERP projects. We understand the pricing. We understand the level of effort, how long these should take. And I'll give you an example. I'm actually on site out here in Tulsa. I had to speak at a board meeting this morning, which was really, really great. And, you know, when I was talking with the chairman of the board, I was able to talk to him about what the timeline is, what our process has been by which we evaluated these vendors, and give him the assurance that not only are we confident in the bid that the vendor put together because we've used our time-tested methodology to evaluate it, but I was able to give him confidence in, you know, our team's ability to manage the project because we are subject matter experts when it comes to, you know, selecting, procuring, and implementing enterprise technologies for our clients.
We also know what the software vendors are going to promise you. And they're going to say, you can absolutely do this. I'm going to stop short of saying misstatements, but we've seen it all. And so we know what the challenges are that software vendors are going to throw up during in its implementation to cause you to almost derail the project entirely. It just comes with the experience.
Yeah. And I'll build on that to say we advocate, right? We know those things. So we are your advocate for you in that transition and in that communication with your software vendor, you know. AV, do you have any words of advice as it relates to any of these things that we're
Well, I mean, we've talked extensively about what the importance of project management is when it comes to doing anything major, right? Like an ERP implementation or just IT modernization in general. You can't leave it to the people that have other day jobs. They're responsible for cybersecurity. They're responsible for the counties or cities' budgets. And now you're going to hand them a full-time 2-year-long project that really is a job. And you need people like us to come in and shepherd you through it. And to Robert's point, we know where the bodies are buried. We know who the liars in the room are. We know how they've treated our other clients. And they may have a shiny presence online or a slick salesperson, but the proof's in the pudding. We know when you treat your clients bad, none of that matters, right? So that's where we come in and protect our clients' best interest, be it from a project management standpoint or just people to talk to, right? That are unbiased and you can trust. And that's really what we're selling is trust and saving you the heartache and the headaches that go with dealing with our software vendor friends.
And it has to start from the very beginning, because one of the things we always make sure we do when we're presenting to a potential client is we show them the team that they're going to get from day one. You start the relationship with us with the very team that's going to carry you all the way through to completion. You're not going to talk to 5 people that are part of a sales front that haven't done project management in 10 years, maybe even never did it at all. And then suddenly you get kicked to a different team that shows up after your kickoff meeting and says, we're actually the ones that are going to carry you forward. We establish
again what you need.
Absolutely. That's one of the things I like about our team is, what you see is what you get. I always say that, we're large enough to serve you, but we're agile enough, that we can, make the adjustments that we need. You get to know our team, we get to know your team, and it's not a classic bait and switch where, you go to Best Buy and you've got your sight set on the Sony, and then they say, no, here's a Magnavox. With the Vero, you're going to have A team every single time. And it's not going to be folks that just started doing this. We've built our careers on proudly serving the public sector.
And I point this out because a lot of the software vendors do exactly this. The sales team and the initial kickoff team you get from your software implementers.
Hey, we have someone from Boynton Beach, Florida, that's chimed in.
Oh, nice.
I think it's Dan from NetSuite, which we haven't dealt with. So sorry, Dan.
No, hey Dan.
It's not you. It's the others.
No, it's not you at all. Not at all. Okay, so let me ask you guys this. What are some of the common challenges that as a project manager that you face? And maybe talk about some of those and then how you've overcome some of those challenges.
Oh, that's probably about the best question that you can ask. Project managers, I would say, is the most difficult role on the team. In terms of on our side of the fence, you have, you've got your senior manager coming at you as the project on time. Where are you at with the budget? You've got the chief projects officer, Robert, coming at you. Do you have the bandwidth? Can you take this on? You, in terms of, dealing with the vendor, you have the vendor coming to you saying, hey, I think the project's going to start falling behind because the client, and we'll say as arbitrarily that, the finance department at the city, the project's at risk of falling behind because they're not able to get things done. And then you have, the finance director coming to you saying, hey, this is moving too quickly. We're cyclical and we're working on budget and we don't have the bandwidth to do this project. So then I have to come back to our team and say, hey, do we have business analysts that can actually do some of the work to keep the project going? So when you're the project manager, you're kind of the master of puppets. There's so many things that you're doing. It's tough, but I'm proud to say that our team of project managers at Avero, they've, steel is forged in fire. And that is really where our team thrives. And I have watched some of our project managers pump the brakes and say, you know what, we actually need to pause for a moment. We need to bring the vendor and the sponsorship back together, and we need to talk about this. And our team is not the team. If we have 80 hours dedicated to a task, we are not going to wait until we've burned through 60 hours to check in. We're going to have those checkpoints along the way. That way, for the city resources that we're continuing to manage appropriate and accurate levels of stakeholder engagement. In terms of the way that we're managing our vendors, we will let them know, that we do have the resources available so that we can continue this work. And when you think about an ERP project, these are long projects, as AV mentioned. These can be 2-year-long projects. And there are work assignments that are given out weekly. We'll talk about a financial implementation. You're going to have work sessions maybe on Tuesdays and on Thursdays with the finance team from the ERP vendor. If you're not able to get that work done, then the project falls a day behind, a week behind, a month behind. So you have to make sure that you continually have that communication. So when I think about the things that I look for in my project managers, that's great. You've got the PMP. That's great. It's wonderful that you've got the experience, but if you're not able to communicate in such a way that with folks from the C-suite all the way down to the field level, you're not going to be successful and be able to get things done. So, and we really run our project managers at Avero through the ringer to make sure that they have those communication skills, that they're well organized, that they don't have a problem having those difficult discussions. Because if you do not feel confident in your ability to assess risks and, make quick decisions, you're just not going to be successful. Robert, anything to add to that?
ERPs are a special type of pressure. This came to mind while you were speaking about this, Andrew. ERPs are a special kind of pressure, both on the project manager and on the client end as well. No matter how well an ERP implementation goes, your staff's not looking to immediately do it again. So even the best ERP implementations, people are hoping, okay, this is going to last my career, or at least I really want it to last my career. So there's a daily pressure that comes with ERP that, just the average project manager is not going to be able to get up to speed quickly on. You have to have already come up through a process where you've been a part of those ERP implementations, especially at a business analyst level, moving up through a senior consultant, and then you get your chance to be a project manager. You have to be well seasoned to have something with that long of a timeline, that much political pressure, and that much change management. The first thing that happens when we walk in the door and start talking to your staff is they start wondering in their mind, what does this mean to my job? And they're already going through in their mind, this new ERP system is probably going to threaten the way I do things. It's going to expose me for not knowing how to do my job. And our first task during that kickoff presentation is to put them at ease that that is not the case here. I have yet to see an ERP system in local government completely replace staff.
How much do you think functional knowledge is important for a project manager? Like, if you're doing a full-scale ERP, does a project manager need to have deep expertise in all the functional areas, financials, work orders, blah, 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 you name it?
I think it's important, AV, and not to sound biased to our team, but our team is so experienced. All of our project managers have successfully led clients full life cycle. So our project managers actually have that functional expertise to where they can speak about examples of why your AP process this way was a value add, or why taking advantage of the citizen access portal in community development is a value add for this community, and or why having a vendor portal as part of procurement, and resulting in the AP process at the other end, why that has been a value add. I think the fact that the Avero team is familiar not only functionally, but that we are aware of how these different systems function, whether you're talking about Tyler Technologies or you're talking about the different offerings from Oracle or CityView or Workday. Our teams know those, or in the public housing space, whether we're talking about Emphasis Elite or whether we're talking about Yardi. I think that it definitely helps. And when you look at the value that our team can bring to an organization, we can proudly say, hey, not only from a functional standpoint do we know the best practices, but we also know the emerging technologies and how they're able to translate incorporating those best practices into the technologies and how that can really create value from an operations management standpoint going forward.
Megan, I know you have a bunch of questions.
No, you're fine.
We'll go all day.
I like that. And to sort of backtrack a little bit, I think it does have a little bit to do with what you just asked, AV. But let's talk about our project management teams. And, when we hire someone in, what is the progression of that employee? And talk about the experience that gives them, right, for when they are a senior PM. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let me take that. I mean, the historic attitude towards that has been come in at the bottom and learn the ropes if you haven't been in the industry, and then your growth path was, I don't know, call it what you may, consultant, BA, senior associate, and the next major step would be project manager. Now, we think about it differently these days because not everybody that's really good at business process analysis or requirements definition can necessarily become a project manager. It's a whole other skill set. It's important to have the basics of the widgets being delivered, but it's not necessary that person becomes a solid project manager. It's almost like you have to disconnect from the subject matter at hand and then focus solely on the people aspect of things and the budgeting aspect of things and the communications aspect of things, where your job is to not surprise the client or your own team with anything, right? Internal or external stuff. Your job is to make sure that there are no surprises, that you're holding the train as long as it takes, to make sure that the client ready and the systems are ready for go live, which is a major event in anyone's life, forget careers. So
Yeah.
so we still like people who come in at the consultant level to become PMs, but it's not a hard set expectation anymore,
Right.
because those are two completely different but related skill sets, and you can become a PM if you're a good consultant, but it's not guaranteed.
Yeah, I mean, we've had folks that we've brought in, you know, as an associate. They've worked their way up to senior consultant, and you know, we've tried them at PM, and that just wasn't right for them, and they've excelled, you know, as a senior business analyst. We've had some folks that, you know, that stayed a little longer at senior consultant, but then we were able to promote them, and they're outstanding project managers. So
I think the key is, there's no multiple, there's multiple paths. There's no one key path that gets you there. Now, when I'm looking at someone, I'm looking initially for a professional demeanor, communication skills, and signs of good decision-making skills, because those are the three things that are very difficult to teach. Everything else, you're surrounded by people that are willing to share their knowledge and give you the experience you need to have those skills, because one would think that, classic example, my background's IT, but a lot of IT folks have technical knowledge and functional knowledge of something. They're not going to make good project managers for a number of reasons. So you can't assume that just because there's a foundation of technical knowledge that person, I mean, we have a great example of that. Sarah is an outstanding project manager who came through IT, but she also had from the very beginning those three things I was talking about: a professional demeanor, the ability to communicate well and clearly with the client, as well as being able to show leadership and from day one, because really that's the most important thing we do, is we provide professional leadership to our clients. The details and the functional areas, those can be figured out through an SME or through someone else, but at the end of the day, clients need to know that someone's actually leading this project, even when it's not going well. That's the key thing. It's easy to lead when the project's on time and on budget. It's when challenges and risks come your way that really start to challenge people. So we help build those skills in folks that don't have it, provided they have a baseline of those other things I was talking about.
I like to know how folks handle stress as well, because, you know, if you're the kind of person that, you know, you're just looking to punch the clock and you want to leave early, the PM route is not for you. There's a lot of late nights. I mean, it just is what it is. I mean, you have to know everything about everything that is going on and be prepared. There's times where it's 9 o'clock at night and I'll get a call from a CFO, or it's 7 in the morning and I'm getting a call from my boss wanting to know what's going on. You're being pulled in all different directions, and you have to be able to remain calm. And you know, the thing that I always try to do is create a win or a loss, you know, recognize what the lessons are learned and how can we refine our processes, and how can you go back and draw on those moments, you know, and apply what you learned going forward to continuously improve the ways in which you're managing a portfolio of clients or multiple projects with the same client.
Yeah, you definitely have to be versatile. So we've talked a lot about communication, right? And I feel like it always comes up in our lives. We know how important communication is in all aspects of our lives and job roles. But let's talk about collaboration. You know, we hate on our software vendors all the time, but we still have to work in communication.
That's a little
strong word. It depends on who they are and what they
okay.
They have their own unique challenges.
I'm trying to show them some love here, but at the end of the day, seriously, we do have to collaborate with our outside partners and then our clients, and then also internally. So how do you guys do that, and how do you develop that skill over time?
It's a one-team approach. I was in a meeting, a very, very challenging meeting yesterday, and it's a one-team approach. You cannot deliver a project without your team. Can't, because
No, do not jump off the call.
We told you it's not you,
So
Don.
sorry.
the
So
vendor
sorry. Not
the
you.
vendor
I promise.
relies on you as the project manager in the middle to pull all the resources together. Should I jump off the call?
That's one of our software vendor friends who we haven't worked with, so we assume they're good.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, there's going to be difficult things that come up. You know, it's not always the vendor's fault. It's, you know, sometimes it's the client's fault because, you know, you have constraints.
Yeah.
And every so often it's our fault. Not very often at all, but
it's never our fault.
No,
I mean, I was fighting some battles yesterday where sometimes you have members of the management team that say, oh, it's just another software project. Focus on your daily responsibilities. You know, you have to help coordinate that. So again, being the project manager, you are in the hot seat, and you need to make sure that you keep those channels of communication open. You need to make sure that you're fortifying strong relationships with rapport with your project sponsorship team, with folks at all levels of the organization.
You know, I'll elaborate on that a little bit more. Vendors tend to be, and as consultants, we are vendors too, right? So when things fall apart, who is supposed to get the blame? It's us. We are responsible. The client has recruited and given us a contract to make sure that this project goes well without risks, and that the risks are managed and communicated well. When there are misunderstandings on what is supposed to be delivered, everyone gets the target on their back, right? Including the clients. So it's really important that you take a hard look at what outcomes you're looking for at the very beginning. This isn't something you can do as you go along, and that is clearly not the best way of doing it. So, you know, when vendors, salespeople are talking to a client that doesn't quite understand what they need and what they're trying to buy, there's all the chances of miscommunication. The salesperson's trying to get that end of quarter commission and get out of there with the contract. The client's trying to get this project, it's a hot potato off their hands, and in the interest of speed, the details are lost. So then when we come in and start asking the detailed questions, the client is in a bad spot because they haven't thought it through. The vendor sales guy or gal is gone because the contract's done, and now you're in with an implementation team that's asking the same questions that we would ask, because they want to seek the same answers, and you have to start the process all over again with a contract in hand. So the best practice always is to think about what you're doing, what your strategy is, what the desired outcomes are. Have that documented in hand before you start talking to software vendors, because that's when things, you know, don't line up.
Yeah, there's a reality with the software, and all of us here have friends in the software vendor portion of this in the industry. Their reality is that they are pretty understaffed in terms of project management. They're having the same retention struggles that everyone else is. And so when you have a project manager at a software company who's leading 8 implementations, it is impossible to follow the standard pillars of project management across 8 projects and make sure the customer is getting exactly what they need. And what they have to face on a daily basis in a lot of situations is, I'm going to prioritize this client because they're the squeaky wheel. They're the ones that I'm getting the phone call on. They're the ones who want to know why the project plan hasn't been revised to reflect the new dates. We're the ones who are, we're getting the attention of those project managers at the software company to get that information, because it's a prioritization thing. It's not that they're just sitting around collecting a bunch of cash and not doing anything for the client. They are dealing with some real internal struggles that are resourcing issues for them. Our job still, though, is to make sure that they're held accountable for what they promised to deliver to you as the client. That's the true reality of how things are going these days with software vendors.
Well, it's like again, building a house. You need to treat an ERP project or an IT modernization project that goes over multiple years. You're spending political capital on getting those council votes behind you. you can't treat this lightly. You have to treat this like you're building a new school building or a police headquarters. This is as critical. So you can't just throw it to the wind and say, let's see how this goes. Here's a bunch of money. You need the professionals involved.
Yes, for sure. So what are some of the common pitfalls to avoid when managing a project, any project?
Oh, the first one is the client trying to do it all themselves or any particular phase themselves, because we get called in after a selection's already been made, after they've already paid the entire invoice of the project, and there hasn't even been a kickoff. And the struggles are real at that point. They are very, very difficult. And the path forward can be done, but it's usually at a much longer timeline than initially would have been. So what I always give people advice on is, if you're even thinking about, maybe I need to replace my ERP system, get a professional in there to help guide that from day one. It's going to save you a lot of time. It's going to save you a lot of grief. It's going to save you a lot of credibility as well. You know, clients don't switch ERP systems every other year. They're not experts at it. Get an expert to at least help guide that from the very beginning, and make sure you get the system that you actually need and deserve, and not wait until after the fact to try and put all the pieces together. And sometimes that's not even getting a new system. That's just re-leveraging what you already have,
Right.
and maximizing the investments you already made on that. But getting someone in there as soon as possible, the minute that you are starting to wonder, is this the right system for us? It might be. You might be fine going another 5 or 6 years on that system, but someone has to guide you through asking those questions and getting those answers correctly.
To throw an example out there, Robert, I mean, I'm not going to say specifically where this happened at, but while we were doing a comprehensive IT assessment, we found out that one of our clients, they had 2 departments that were both in need of a work order management system, which could be handled through an enterprise asset management system. And they both went ahead and just bought them. And that organization was so siloed, and their IT department was not centrally involved in IT investments. And they ended up having 2 completely separate systems that they spent several $100,000 on at the same time. So
is that best of breed? I mean, that's a term we're hearing a lot these days, right? Not one system is currently able to do it all, although they claim that they do. For like very specific niche clients, like our clients here in Tennessee that have a TVA supplied power, that have very stringent data recording and reporting rules. We found that there are best of breed solutions that serve specific needs for specific clients. How far do you go with that? Because you want to stop short of custom builds. The Legos have been built. We need to put them together into a puzzle that makes sense to our clients. So
in some instances, the best of breed is a good approach. I mean, there's been a great deal of consolidation in the industry where you have some of the power players have gone and expanded, the repertoire of modules that are offered. But there, in some cases, and that example that you gave, AV, the best of breed approach does work best in some instances when there's iniquities where this specific software would work best. And the thing that you can say is, with most of these solutions, there are interfaces for integrations that have already been established. So it's not like you're going to be at risk where, this system falls outside of your traditional financial management and HR ERP system. They're still going to be able to establish those integrations. And, to speak to our process, when we're defining requirements, like Robert just talked about, integration requirements is something that our team does consider. So once we get to the point where we are moving forward with contract negotiations, we've already spelled out what all of those requirements are going to be from a functional standpoint. What do your people need the systems to do? And from an integration standpoint, what tools outside of that system do we need to integrate so that it's fully functional?
Yeah,
I like
it's hard
it.
to do when you have 30-year-old plus systems, and in our experience, it's the ball of yarn is so tightly wound, and you don't know where to begin. You just don't know, and that's what causes some of our clients to not move on things for years because they don't
Yeah.
know where to begin.
Well, and sometimes our first task is to shore up the existing system, so it's going to make it another 12 months. We've had to do that from
Yeah.
time to time.
Yes. So, what are some examples of some successful projects that we're currently working on or have worked on in the past? What initiatives were used, and how were those projects managed effectively?
Successful projects. The first thing that,
All of them.
yeah, the first thing
Right.
that we do is
I
make
hope.
sure that we completely understand the scope, what the opportunity is with the client. We put together a work plan that makes sense based on our experience, and we meet with sponsorship to review that to make sure that it's the right fit. The next thing that we do is we identify who are the stakeholders that are going to be involved, and we establish a means by which we're going to effectively govern the project. We understand, what the milestones are in our work plan. We understand what the escalation points are if we run into some challenges, and then we set appropriate levels of engagement whereby we would need to engage staff from the client. And then from there, we will finalize our timeline, and then we start moving forward. We have checkpoints. We have sponsorship meetings. And, for ERP projects, we usually meet with sponsorship every other week. We meet with the core team every week. We're talking about where we are on the work plan, what's scheduled, what's been successful, what are our risks, how are we managing that, any big things that are coming up. So project management, it's a daily, sometimes an hourly thing for us, and we have to make sure that we're doing that we're effectively, delivering on the small things, and that we're managing them all the way up to the big things.
Yeah, and there's also some we follow PMI standards, right? We're PMPs, and you can take that too far also. And I hope no one from PMI is watching this because I'd lose my certification. The reality of it is in our projects, you can't necessarily follow the whole PMP life cycle. It's good principles to have, but on a extremely tight budgeted project that is politically fraught with risk, you're not gonna for every phase have a communication plan, and you're not gonna have a charter for each project. And even PMI says that any project under $1 million, you're not gonna follow these principles 100%. So we've done a good job of taking the good things and the most practical things from the PMI framework and applying it to our practice. And fundamental to that are the tools related to communications and people management. Again, none of this is a technical project, where very little of this ends up being a technical project. However, when people think ERP implementations, they immediately hand it off to the IT department and the CIO, when 90% of it is functional and people oriented.
Yeah. And one of the last questions I have, and we'll wrap it up here. This has been a great conversation.
Yeah.
We can still go. That's fine.
Robert had something to say.
You guys have time.
Don't let him
Let's
talk.
keep it going.
Yeah, I was going to ask you a question, but go ahead, Megan.
No, I mean, and I hope I portray this the right way, but we call ourselves IT consultants. So let's have a conversation around why that's a good thing or a bad thing. Because I think a lot of the time we maybe portray the messaging a little bit wrong when we're brand building and that sort of thing. But why are we, or why are we not IT consultants?
I refer to us, and we're in the process of redoing our marketing. You know that. We are IT management consultants is how I would put it. Like, we help you manage that, the tools and the outcomes, right? It's not necessarily the the blinking lights in the data center. You know, most of the things are going to the cloud. Most things are going to software as a service. Most city and county organizations will be moving to a managed services model for a variety of reasons, and we can do a whole other show on that. But what does that mean? There's a real gap in terms of how you manage this whole thing. How do you assess and attach standards to it and processes to it? And most importantly, our clients, the CIOs, the mayors, the city managers, how do they handle a fast-moving and fast-changing technological environment? At the end of the day, we're helping them get to their outcomes, period. Some of those things might need technology, some might need process change, some might need better strategy. But yeah, it can be a misnomer in most of our work.
When I think of why I'm an IT consultant, I'm not the guy that's behind the scenes doing the system configuration, but I'm the guy that understands process, and I also understand technology, and I can work with a county administrator, a city manager, and their teams to understand what their vision is. And then I can construct a tactical action plan of how we can partner, the tools that are available in the marketplace along with their operations, and how we can work together to build efficiency in their operations. So,
and fun fact, right? On this call, at least, none of us have an IT background. My background is finance and accounting. Robert, you're an architect? No, I'm sorry.
You assume I'm an architect.
Look like one. Yeah. Andrew's got a change management background, and Megan's
my background's in organizational development and business administration and project management. So
we do have IT, the nerds on our team. Sarah, for example, who Robert mentioned earlier. And yes, you, Robert. Yes, you.
No, and I think the term IT is dying anyway, because all this references an old system that no longer is there anymore. In terms of an IT manager is the one who went out and procured our services and selected the software vendor, and that IT manager traditionally reported to the CFO or the finance director. I mean, when I started in the industry a billion years ago in local government IT, every IT manager reported to the finance director, because they were the ones who needed the systems first, way back when, probably before all of us were born. That's when the first systems, the first computers people got were for utility billing or for financials or doing budgeting. And we're finally at the point where organizations understand that their CIO cannot be the person who selects their new ERP system. It has to be key stakeholders in the organization. It has to be the finance director, the HR director. And their role, IT's role in managing that ERP system, is going away as well, especially with hosted solutions. So they need to be there as technical experts, but we're far removed now from IT having to run the entire show and make a decision for your end users, when it really should be your process owners and your end users working with their directors, deciding this is the system we need based upon these sets of requirements. So I think the IT term itself is going away and is going to be replaced with just a basic technology definition. Who knows? IT's world is changing every day. That's what is difficult going into some of these siloed local government instances and showing them is your world is changing every day now, and your ability to have to manage different things or
absolutely.
The CIO now in a lot of organizations is called the procurer in chief, because they spend most of their time procuring the managed services and dealing with vendor contracts than they do actually, talking to a network team and deciding, well, we're going to replace these 7 switches this year. That world is changing rapidly, if it hasn't already.
Yes, I think I have 2 comments on this topic. I think one, just to add to your all's point, local government can be very siloed, right? But I think from a project management standpoint and an expertise standpoint, we understand how those different departments work. Therefore, we know how to manage those people sometimes and listen to them and listen to their problems and what they want to be changed, right? Which brings me to my second point is we help implement change. I think a lot of our government in general is scared to make a change, right? They want to do things the way they've always done it. because that's always the way it's been done, if that makes sense. So I think we advocate for change, and I think we take that scariness right out of it. So
yes, that's true. And it's essential, because if we're going to get the real information as to what's going on, good, bad, or ugly, we have to go in there with the demeanor of, we're not here to judge you on the process you do. We're here to understand the process you do. And the reality is, local government has a variety of flavors that it comes in. And sometimes the finance director has to do something a particular way because the governing board or the mayor or the town manager or city manager says it has to be done this way, or someone at the state or an auditor says you have to do it this way. So streamlining a process all you want is ideal, but if it means that they're not going to be able to achieve their specific goal, even if it's a political goal, we have to honor that and respect that as well. So coming from an aspect of, we're not here to judge you and tell you don't know what you're doing, your processes are all screwed up and they all need to be revised, is not going to be able to keep you a client in the long run, because especially CFOs are very sensitive to folks who think they know how to run their financials better than the CFO does. And the CFO's already got a huge balancing act that they're trying to do. They don't need a vendor coming in trying to disrupt things. They need a vendor that's going to come in and help them.
Well, and to bring it back to the project manager, which has been kind of the focus of the discussion, we are here with the experience because we've been there to provide reassurance to our clients, the CFOs, the CIOs, the chief HR officers, the city managers, that we can get this project delivered on time, on budget, and we use a time-trusted methodology that's backed by PMI standards. So I've been doing project management for a long time, as has AV and Robert, and it's something that I really love. And we plan to talk for a half hour. Here we are. We're almost 20 minutes over. But Megan, I'm always happy to talk about project and program management anytime you want to have that discussion. So thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, guys. This has been a great conversation. Is there anything else anyone would like to say before we wrap it up here?
My quick question for AV and Andrew is, we throw out PMP a lot for project managers out there watching this. What point in their career do you think they should seriously look at that? Because I'm thinking that if you are going to go out and get that right out of the gate as a new project manager, that's going to be a disservice to you.
Well, you can't do it anyway. You need what, 2,000 hours, 4,000?
Yeah, the requirements you have to have.
There's a lot of hours you need to have under your belt as a PM or in a PMO before you can even qualify for the test.
Yeah, they look at, do you have a bachelor's degree? No. Do you have a master's degree? How much experience do you have? The application process is pretty rigorous.
But outside of that too, sorry, Andrew, but outside of that, I think you need to achieve some sort of maturity in project management, which is subjective, right? You need to have, but the assumption is once you have those requirements met that PMI lays out, that you will be a mature professional, forget project manager. And then you can, I've had it since 2009, and I don't think I was a mature PM at that time, but I
hired you in 2013. You were pretty mature at that point.
I was. See, it took me a while. So my point is, when you study for the PMP, there's a lot of technical stuff that's in there. How do you account for cash flows and formulas and math? And I've never used any of that in a real project management situation. I've run fairly large projects, right? So the maturity, I think, comes from not trying to apply all of the things all of the times to all the projects. In a previous lifetime, I had a senior manager who was my boss when I was a PM, that for a $50,000 month-long project, he would make me do a project charter and communication plan, blah, blah. You're blowing the budget as you follow the PMI process. And then by the time you come, it's time to deliver the service to the client. You're done. So I think the maturity is, how do you take what PMI offers, what's most practical and useful in a given situation, and that when you can figure that out, take the test.
Well, and when you think about the test, when you actually get into the test, you will realize that your work experience 9 times out of 10 is not even applicable, because the test is through the eyes of the buyer. So that would be the project, the project team on the city side. As a consultant, we're sellers of services. It had nothing to do with what I do at my day job. And when you start going through it, it's like, during the day, I know A and B is wrong. I usually do C and D every time, but C is wrong on the test.
Was that supposed to be subliminal?
What, the subtext?
Yeah.
No, it's the topic we're talking about.
Actually, yeah, we should have started that early on. Sorry, but we messed this up, Megan. We could have done this a lot better from the get-go.
Oh, come on.
You guys see what I have to deal with on a daily basis. A big part of my job is managing these.
Like
guys.
I said in a sales presentation
we need a
yesterday.
project manager for the round table.
We need a project manager for the project managers.
We do.
I said this in a meeting yesterday. We're project managers. We're salespeople. We're excellent at our day jobs. Marketing and live streaming is like a secondary skill, so we're getting better at it slowly.
We are, but we're also very fun and very real people. So thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, AV. I appreciate the conversation. Guys, if there's any topic that you all want to hear about, please reach out to us via LinkedIn. We're on every social media platform, so please message us and let us know what you want to hear about. But other than that, we'll catch you guys next week, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks,
everybody.
Bye.